Hey guys, Tom here with Throwing Wrenches Garage, and Declan in his little hidey hole. We already got started today. We're going to be bouncing around and doing a bunch of little things today. So one of the things that Declan's going to be doing, and I'll just throw you in there to see, is he is currently prepping the metal inside the engine compartment, specifically the crossmember here, wire brushing it, and then he's going to do some metal etching prep on it so that we can hit that with POR 15 to just kind of stop the rust that's going on there. It's just surface rust anyway, but we want to sort of arrest it and get that looking nice and black. And then hopefully we're going to come back in here today and wax and degrease the paint, or de-wax and degrease the paint, and then hit that with some bright red paint that we have that's actually a duplicate color match for this. So we can get the engine compartment looking pretty nifty and clean for when we do drop another motor back in here. It is a beautiful day here, beautiful fall day in Mass. We got perfect temperatures for this, perfect weather. So he's going to be doing that. And I am going to be working on the Chevelle. So I'll take you back to show you what we're going to be doing here. So I had an issue with the Chevelle for the last couple of weeks. And the issue really is electrical. So I'll take you back to what this actually was and what it was doing to me. It was a cold issue. Every time the car was cold, it would start up fine. It's always started up fine. But when it was cold, it would start and run for seconds and then sometimes quit. I could start it right back up again, but then sometimes it would quit again. Sometimes it wouldn't. It was really annoying. I thought it had something to do with the choke, but it didn't. Started thinking about the problem more and more and realized that this thing was starting too easily and it was quitting too easily. It wasn't stammering or stuttering, it was just quitting. So it wasn't really a fuel issue, because usually when you got a fuel or an air issue, there's going to be a stammer or a stutter to that. It's not usually an immediate off, and if it is an immediate off, it isn't going to start again. So it actually stranded me at a car show a couple of weeks ago. It would turn over, but it wouldn't actually kick and start. So diagnosed the problem, and it turned out to be the lead that goes into my HEI distributor, which is this little green wire that I've got sitting out on the hood. It turns out that the terminal that it was going into the distributor, the wire it was only holding on by the insulation of the wire. The actual metal connection inside had pretty much just corroded itself and ceased to exist. So I'm going to fix it the right way. It was a green wire, which is always misleading to me. So we're going to run a red wire because it's a power wire. So that'll be easier for me to understand. And we're going to sort of reroute that inside today. That's what you're going to be seeing. I have the original plug that goes in there. That's important because that's going to snap in place and not wiggle around, so it'll stay firmly secured. We got a length of wire here that we're going to use, and I am going to get this thing connected. Also got the right kind of connector fitting. So hopefully you guys can see this, and hopefully it focuses. Maybe I got to move it back a little. So this is the little spade connector. It's exactly the right kind that's going to fit inside of this piece. And stay trapped inside once we get it fitted. And so we're going to get this snapped into place. Worth getting a decent tool for this. So we're just going to go ahead and strip back some of this wire. I like to use a little set of pliers to get these things bent in and held in. That is now fastened securely. You can go a little bit nuts with this. You could solder that connection in. I'm not gonna. Seems like a lot of extra effort. But what I am gonna do is throw a little heat shrink over this just to make sure that this thing doesn't flex too much. Because I think that's one of the things that gets to these is weather gets in here and corrodes. So we'll throw a little piece of heat shrink over here and heat shrink it. So what I'm doing with this heat shrink here is I've slid it right over the actual connector. So that way we're actually giving it a little strength, keeping it from flexing away from the connector. There we go. So now it's got a little bit of extra strength to it. These connectors have a little barb on one side. Just gonna bend it up a little bit, make sure it's up in the place. Not sure how well you see that. It's not exactly a macro lens, but it only slides in one way. There we go. Now we're in, and that thing's not coming out. And we're all heat shrink, so I wouldn't call it weatherproof, but it's a little bit more resilient than it had been for sure. I'll feed the other end of this to our hole in the firewall. And I cut this wire a little bit long on purpose. Right? Cutting a little bit long means I can always trim a little bit off. You don't get too particular about wasting wire because you'll go crazy that way. There's some wire rooting in here that kind of drives me batty. And I'm just trying to see if I can fix it now. I may not be able to because some of it will require too much disconnecting and splicing, but you know, I might as well see what I can do. I mean, there's this wire, which I'm still not sure what it is. So you Chevelle guys out there, this orange wire runs all the way across the firewall. Tell me what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it connects to on the other side. I'm not taking the fender off to disconnect it. So I think what I'm going to do, since it's routed horribly here, is I'm going to just cut it and make a connector. Separate it now and then make a connection and snap it back together. So I have a quick disconnect in there and I can route it where I want it to be. So in truth, this is probably a little bit of butchery. Probably shouldn't do what I'm about to do. Let's see how much I care. This is just bugging me too much to let it go. We're going to reroute this orange wire. Most of the stuff that I'm doing today with this thing is really kind of housekeeping, because the parking lot fix that I put in place in this thing was working and there's nothing wrong with it. So it could have probably held for a while longer, but it makes sense to do this correctly. And as long as I'm getting in here and doing the wires, it makes sense to kind of come in and clean them up right. So we'll use our nifty tool again, which if you guys don't have one of these things and you do some wiring, man, it's totally worth it. This one is, I don't know, it's an Amazon cheapie. Haisstronica. I don't know. If I can find a link to it on Amazon, I will put it in the description of the video. But it wasn't a lot of money, and it does a really good job. Saves a bunch of time. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did over there. We're going to do heat shrink tubing on it. Although this time I have to slide it on beforehand because I don't have an open end of the wire. Always important. It's kind of like when you do a perfect flare on a brake line and then realize you didn't have the nut on it. Yeah, the heat shrink tubing has to go on first if you don't have an open end. You can use a heat gun, and normally I would, but I don't have a battery operated heat gun, so I don't want to deal with the cables and dragging power around. So I picked up one of these little torches. This is like, I think I got it at an auto parts store. Little propane torch. It works perfect because it's very portable. Yeah, I don't know who makes it. Probably doesn't matter. I may have even got it at Harbor Freight. What we're using is these little, they're not Deutsch connectors because they're not waterproof, so we're not going that crazy. But this is, again, a little connector kit that I picked up on Amazon. I'll again see if I can find a link to it to drop in the description. It's fairly cheap. I think it was like 20 bucks for the full connector kit. But what this does is it gives us, I'll come a little closer, an actual positive connection. So these two pieces lock together, a little clip, just like I would have done from a manufacturer. And it actually comes with the little metal connections, the spade and the receiver that go inside of this, and they positively lock inside. So you just slide this in here, and it will lock in place. Yep, just heard a little click. So that's trapped in there now, it's not coming out. And now we'll do the same thing to this other side. Because the wiring kind of goes a long way, right? You have crummy wiring, crummy connectors. Just makes your life a nightmare, especially anytime you have problems. And then you're constantly troubleshooting and not knowing if it's a wiring connection, that you caused a problem with, or something else. So it pays to do things the right way, sort of. Alright, so thing number 2 that was bugging me about this wiring is there's a bunch of wires that are just sort of hanging out at play here that need to be addressed. So I like to use this tape. This is Tesa Tape. Buy a ton of rolls. I don't think you can even buy single rolls of it, but it's like a fabric tape. This is not electrical tape. It sticks to itself fairly well. It's pretty good in heat. It works good in the engine compartments. It's not, I use it pretty much like as a wire loom. I wouldn't say that it's perfect or professional, in the sense that I wouldn't want the whole car to, we want a show car to look like this. But it does a pretty good job. And if you're already working with a completed car and you're trying to do this stuff in place, works pretty well. And we're really just going to use it to sort of clean things up a little bit. So the connections are taken care of here on the engine side, but we still got to take care of them on the inside. So let's move on to that, because I got to solder a couple of wires together now. I ran that new ignition wire inside, so now I can take care of that. Hey guys, we're going to get to the video in a second, but we did want to take a moment to tell you that we did open up a merch store. So a couple people have asked about merch. You guys have seen us wearing the t-shirts and the hoodie and the hats. Really just kind of made those just so that I could wear them around, because I like merch. But we did make those available to you guys. If you buy them, if you want to be able to support the channel and you want to wear those around, I would very much appreciate it. I know Declan would appreciate it, because all the money that we would get from that goes straight into the Camaro. So that would be very much appreciated. If you want to wear that stuff around, you can see it on the YouTube store, or you can go to throwingwrenchesgarage.com and purchase them there. One word about them is we are a really small channel, so it's not like we don't have a warehouse of those things. They're all print on demand, which means that when you order them, they're going to print it and make it and send it off to you for you. So it takes a few more days to get those than you would from a normal channel. But the upside is, if you don't see something you like on that channel, tell me about it. If there's something you want to see for a piece of merch, we can actually go ahead and develop it, and it really doesn't cost us a whole lot extra money to do it.
Because we will take requests.
Yeah, we can take requests for that. So if there is, if you want to see something like in a ladies' cut tee or something, or something in a different color shirt.
For the 4%.
For the 3% of viewers who allegedly are female on our channel, you can go ahead and do that.
They might have just messed up, clicked the button.
I have a feeling that the 3% of people that are female on our site are couples where the wife has the YouTube account and the husband is on it, because I don't think there's a lot of ladies watching this. But in any event, if you would, please go ahead and click on that, check our stuff out, and if you'd like to buy our merch, please go ahead and buy it, and we'll see you soon. And you guys know I'm not really like a how-to channel. In fact, more often than not, you guys are giving me advice and tips that I didn't know about before I did the video, so let's not pretend that this is all about me showing you how to do this wiring, because it isn't. So I'm trying to join a few wires into one. I'm going to solder this connection. I'm sure there's a different way to do this that's correct, and not the way that I'm doing it. If you know what that is, go ahead and tell me. You can throw it in the comments, the proper way for me to do this. I don't know it, so happy to hear from you if you know what it is. But for now, this is the way I'm going to do it. But if you just say in the comments, no, 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 don't do that, that's not good enough. I need to know how. And what I am going to do, as I transition these 3 wires into one, is I'm going to use a heavier gauge wire on the one wire that I'm joining into. That feels like it makes sense to me. Alright, so we get that soldered together. Heat shrink on. There's one more piece of wiring in here that I remember has been bugging me, and it has to do with these gauges. The temp gauge, the wire for it, seems to have lost its connection. And depending upon how I wiggle the cables, it completely misreads. And I always forget that I have to go back in and fix this. So we're going to take care of that. Yeah, this one right here, look at that. Fell right out. I guess we'll check all of them while we're back here. The rest seem to be stable. It's just that one. Okay.
I'm sure that was faulty installation by the previous operator.
I think I had like an attrition rate of like 5 to 1 on these things. I told you, I'm not really a wiring guy. So that's taken care of, but I have to admit, a disproportionate amount of the reason that I didn't want to do this or didn't get around to doing this is that I hate putting this thing back on the brackets. It's a pain. It has these like floating nuts that are just awful to start and capture. So this is, you know, it's going to be high comedy in me getting this back in here.
Alright, so that's that buttoned up. I did manage to get it in there. A little bit of tape on those nuts did work. And I was able to keep the cable up here because I found a pre-existing unused hole in the dash under here. And I just used one of those zip ties that has a screw boss in it. And just ran a real short screw up through that and zip tied the cable up there. So now that's held up nice in place. Hopefully that does two things. Keeps the wire from being in my line of sight, bugging the hell out of me when I'm driving the car. And also helps keep those wires stable so that I don't get a loose wire on this thing again. Because the whole reason I have these gauges is so that I can keep track of what the car's doing. And if the gauges aren't being honest with me, it just drives me more nuts than if I had no gauges at all. So that's the wiring on here taken care of and set. It's just a little bit of housekeeping, but man, it's a big difference to get this stuff done. It makes me feel better about it. And now, on to the next thing.
Yeah, there you go. Get all that junk out of there, because we don't want to pan over that.
I'm going to bring this thing over to you for when you're ready.
It's right here. Oh, cool. All right, so is it bubbling up any place? Doesn't look like it, huh?
My brush.
Nice. All right. And now what did the instructions say you needed to do? Wait till it's bone dry?
I said wait 30 minutes, at least.
Yeah. Okay, so you got a timer going? Was that a yes? Okay. All right, so now what we can set on to is using the wax and degreaser on the rest of this stuff. I want to see how we're going to work with this stuff because my plan might not work. We'll see. But I'm kind of thinking what you want to do is use it as a scrubber. Yeah, that's working pretty good. So use this as a way to apply it and then also as a way to scrub the gunk off at the same time. So this scouring pad is going to leave enough scratches and scrapes in here that it'll give the paint a place to grab when we spray it. Make sense?
Just so explain everything.
Everything that's red, yeah, and especially in the spots where we know we're going to have to spray over it again. So any spots like this, where you know it's down to bare metal. is our last fill shot of the beforehand picture. You can see we got a lot of surface rust on the crossmember and a bunch of patches of primer on the wheel wells. All this stuff we really just want to get cleaned up and looking neat before we put the motor in. All right, before and now this is the after. Declan has got 2 coats of the POR on the crossmember, and I gotta say, it looks pretty awesome. I'm sure this is gonna dry out a bit duller, but it is the gloss black finish. But that is nice and well protected now. He got into all the nooks and crannies, got into those tight spaces, and that thing looks good.
Should have done a before and after on me.
He, however, does not look great. He's covered in this stuff. I think I have to throw him away and get a new one now.
Yeah, maybe.
He's done. And he's ruined his nice Vice Grip Garage shirt, which we bought him.
It's authentic now.
Right, alright, you hear that, Derek? Like, he says it's an authentic work shirt now, so he's actually happy that it's all cruded up this way. So,
Wore it on purpose.
well, there you go. So, I guess there's some point to that. But I don't like it. Maybe when you pay for the shirts, I'll feel better about you getting them dirty. So the next thing that I've got up on the list is the wheels. So I have polished aluminum wheels on the Chevelle. I got them because they were less expensive versions of what I really wanted, which was the chrome Krieger wheels. The problem with these things is the polished aluminum never stays polished. It's really, really tough to get these things to stay looking good. And once they get a little bit of water on them, they get pitted. So I'm going to try to polish them, and I'll show you what I'm talking. So you can see if you're getting close here. I mean, they look shiny from a distance, but once you get in close, you see all those water spots. And you don't even actually have to be that close to see them. You can definitely see them when you're standing at the car, when you're near, just sort of walking around it. And I hate it. They really should look much more polished and shiny than that. So could I have polished these on the car? 100%. I have polished them on the car before. But I figured I would take them off to save my back a little bit. And also this lets me just do one wheel and then show you the before and after. So one wheel will be done and one wheel won't be done. And then I can show you what those look like. So that's the general idea. It's kind of thankless pain in the neck work. Fortunately, I have a drill and a bunch of different assortments of attachments for the drill. These little buffing cones. So we're going to try all these out. Use all these up. I think that one's pretty spent. It's like a wool cone. It's done. I don't think we're using that one, but we'll use the rest of these and press on and see what we can do about cleaning these up. I got turned on to this Wolfgang stuff. I'll put a link in the description. I realize I'm saying that a lot in this video, but I'll put a link to this stuff in there. Nobody's sponsoring me for any of this stuff, but in case you guys want to know what I'm using to use it yourself, I'll put it in there. This is Wolfgang. This is the Metallwerks polishes. This is the fine aluminum polish, and then they have this Concourse metal sealant that you put on afterwards. I don't remember how well this worked. Obviously it's not bulletproof, and I probably didn't follow the instructions for how often I'm supposed to apply it, so I'll probably do that a little bit more. But I have gone and used that Metallwerks polish again, and it didn't work great once the wheels got to this point. I think this polish is a little finer, and so I'm going to use some of this Mother's stuff, which is a little bit tougher, a little bit rougher, to hopefully get through some of these water spots and take care of this first. And then hopefully once this works on this stuff and gets these back to looking clean and even, then I can use the Metallwerks stuff and get it really polished. So that's the plan. That's what we're running with. Let's try a little bit of this white Scotch-Brite. It's pretty mild. Shouldn't scratch up the aluminum too bad, but it should help me get rid of these spots. And it is. That's the winner. Alright, I definitely think this was the move. Going with the heavier polish first. That seems to be doing the trick. And then just kind of addressing the few weird spots that we have that I can't get to with that bit with the Scotch-Brite. So this is undone. This is the way they were looking. See all those water spots, stains, right? And this is after step 1 polish. Looking pretty good. I mean, most, if not all of those water spots are gone. This is looking pretty damn good right now. And truth is, I could probably stop now and actually be okay. And if I was in a rush or if the wheels were still on the car, I probably would stop here. In fact, I think I have stopped here a few times before. But because I want to make sure we do as good a job as this on this as we can, we're going to keep on going. So we're going to go to step 2. That's the Metallwerks fine polish in a different pad. So we're going with a little bit of a softer pad. We're not looking to cut as much. This one's a little bit more of a buff. So we'll try that one next. Alright, so now we're all cleaned, polished. We've gone through 2 rounds of polish. This is about as buffed as I'm going to get this thing and about as polished and shiny as it's going to happen. So now we're going to put the sealant on. That's this stuff, the Concourse metal sealant. This is supposed to be able to go directly onto polished aluminum. So we're going to slap this on there. It's supposed to go on with a clean microfiber cloth or a foam applicator. And then we just buff it off after it dries. Yeah, so Declan did a great job with the POR yesterday. You can see it now. We got pretty good light. And it looks really good. I mean, it's a bit shiny, but it's covered, and that's what we care about, protected. I came back in a little bit later and realized that I wanted to get the battery compartment. There was some rust in there that I sort of forgot to tell you about or remind you about.
I was like, oh, this is rusty, but I only said that.
It's really the only rust, I mean, to speak of, right, that we had to address. So I just wanted to make sure we touched that. So I hit that yesterday. Then we decided to let this sit. So we're on the next day now, and we're going to go ahead and tape off a bunch of stuff so that we can spray. And I want us to try to spray as much of the red of the compartment as we can, and we got some tricks for how I'm going to do that. there's a couple things we're going to do. We're going to try to tape some things, like when we have edges like this, we'll tape, because there's no other way to do that. But then there's stuff like this steering column. And my trick here is we just foil it. Laugh all you want. This saves a lot of time. So we're not going for like a pristine paint job, so we don't have to get things perfect. We're just trying to protect this piece. So for things that are kind of flexible and some of the lines and stuff like that, I think that's going to make the most sense to do. So I guess we'll sort of figure out as we go through this what things need to be taped and what things should be foiled. I'll take this thing off because we just put it back on here just to save the screws.
This can also like come off, but should be because of like that.
Yeah, you can take that off. I think anything that's like a hose that's clamped on, we can take right off. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Trash.
Stab. Long spray. So it should be on that.
Yeah. Okay, don't go back and forth. So when you spray with a can, spray one way, and then if you're going to come back, release at the end of your stroke, and then come back and start again.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like one pass, because you see the runs that you have there? That's from too much paint in one shot. So that's why I wanted you to start in that spot, so it's a little bit less conspicuous. So try it again. Better.
So how much do I need to get?
A thin coat, so you can go a little bit more. That's probably good there. And now you can move sort of like upwards a little bit towards the left of that, or closer to you on the side.
Okay.
Yeah. A little close.
I don't want to get like the black stuff there.
Oh, don't worry about it there.
Okay.
There you go. That's a better feel. Do you feel it? The difference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you want to just do light coats so it can stick and dry thinly, and then you can come back literally just a couple minutes later and hit it again. Whereas if you do a heavy coat, it ends up having runs and then it doesn't dry for a while. All right, so just keep on moving up that sidewall. Yep, that's okay. Hold that out of the way and spray. Here, you want to push that up to me and I'll see if I can grab it. There you go. Nice. Get down in there a little bit too. There's that putt that's close to the cross member. Yeah, there you go.
Well, don't worry about that.
Just try to get close to it and try to miss it. It's not critical. Don't worry about it too much. Don't get in your head. Well, now you've ruined it. All of it.
Okay,
The whole thing is ruined. On the cross member. There you go. Down along here too. Yeah. Okay. What about over here? Is there spots you can get over here? Looks like there is. You can shift in your little hidey hole.
It's the exhausting moment.
Is it exhausting? Oh, come on, that was good stuff.
Okay.
tape's removed, all the tin foil's gone, and this is what we're staring at. We're looking pretty good. Pretty shined up. Not exactly, you know, glossy finish everywhere, but everything's covered. We don't have any more primer poking through anymore. And that cross member's looking awesome. Declan did a great job on that. Looking cool. Yeah, we're a little bit dirtier, but a fair amount of stuff done this weekend. I feel like this was like odds and ends. I was with Mike this morning and I was saying there was somehow, even though you guys probably going to hate this video, we'll probably get like 7 views, but I felt like this was a good weekend because we ended up doing a bunch of little fiddly things that were bugging me. So little stuff on the Chevelle that was driving me nuts that I got to take care of.
Tires.
And this is stuff that I kind of, we wanted to get it done, but this is annoying stuff to do.
Boring.
Yeah, it's kind of boring and tedious, and so that's why we kind of wanted to jam it all together. And wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys about the engine. I know there's been a ton of comments since last week's video on that motor. I said some things when we pulled that motor, they were probably dumb, but mostly it was just kind of the shock of seeing that thing in pieces and just sort of stammering and saying stuff for video like you do. We've had some time to think about it and time to process it. And I think we have a general plan for what we're going to do with the motor, which is park it. That 305, she's toast.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, she's all done. And the reason being is there's so much metal in that engine, so much of it, and I don't know how long it's been rolling around in there, but certainly it's been tearing up pieces and parts in that engine. So to me, I wouldn't feel confident in putting that thing back in unless we do a full rebuild on it, and there's just too much money in a full rebuild on that engine to put a 305 back in. It doesn't make any sense. There's no value there. So no 305 back into it. We'll park it. And the reason we didn't tear into that again this weekend, because my buddy Mike was like, you got to tear that thing apart. I want to see the inside. I kind of want to see the inside too, but before we tear into it, I want to know why we're tearing into it and have a plan. I want to tear into it because I want Declan to sort of see the insides. But I'm not sure at this point what we're going to do. So one path is to take, I know you can take the 305 heads and move them over to our 350 that I have in the Chevelle. Gives you a little bit of a higher compression. It's still going to be, you know, a weak sauce motor overall, but it'll be more than this.
I don't need a strong motor though.
You don't need anything crazy. It'll be fine. So one theory is we rob the heads from the 305 and move them over to the 350. So if that's the case, then that means that I'm taking off the heads and the intake and we're moving those over. The only other thing we take off otherwise is just the TPI. So if we only have to take off the TPI, that's not much. So to me, we're either tearing that engine apart because we're salvaging the heads and the TPI, and there's sort of a process to that, or we're doing sort of an autopsy. So if we tear into it for that, then it's really a matter of trying to figure out like what has gone on with that engine, like what caused it to do this, what else is wrong, and I think there's something fun in that, and I definitely think we would want to do that as a video to show you guys sort of what was there and what was internal and what came apart. But I just don't want to get into it until we know what we're doing. So that's the thought process and why we're not digging into that at this moment, but we will get there and we'll tear into it. Bunch of folks giving their opinions on what happened. I do think that thing hydrolocked, and I don't know why yet. So it could be that it hydrolocked because it got water in there. It's just one cylinder where this was bad. I don't think that's because someone was going crazy and over revving it. So that's why I'm really sort of thinking it's probably water got into a cylinder there and somebody didn't realize it and boom, it's toast. But it sort of doesn't matter. It's just, at this point, it's
gone.
Yeah, it's just fun theories and that's it. But it's dead. So rest in peace 305. I'll probably still hang on to it unless we take that intake off and find a crack. If we find a crack, then it's just a boat anchor and it goes away. But if there's no crack in it, then I'll hang on to it, you know, if somewhere in the future somebody wants to rebuild it. But otherwise, we're not doing it anytime soon. So that is all for this week, and we'll see you next time.